welcome to another one of RVN's television show, What the Why with Barbara Ann episodes. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured things out. And today is no exception. Maybe at some point in your life you felt stuck and you wanted to get unstuck, or maybe you're just sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. All of our guests have something in common with you. At some point in their lives, they felt similarly and decided to do something about it. And today's guest is no exception. I'm super excited to welcome Lewis Brown Griggs. Lewis Brown Griggs is a diversity, I teach this and I should know. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging expert. He is a co-author and co-producer, speaker, facilitator, executive coach, and CEO of Griggs Productions. Lewis, as he just likes to say, grew up with all of the trappings of white privilege, but felt called to work and serve in the field of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging consciousness after having had a near-death experience and coming back to, quote, do the work that enables me and others to be all we are capable of being. So instead of rising through the ranks of industry or politics, which is definitely something that Lewis could have done, he chose to dedicate his professional life to teaching straight white men like himself how to do the authentic and mutual relationship bridging across our differences in order to benefit from fulfilling seeing and being seen by one another. Diversity consciousness in the workplace, in the home, in the community, and in society as a whole is not about compliance or tolerance, as many are often taught. It is about deeply and authentically valuing each and every person as a critical part of the whole. Just as cell differences make organic life possible, and different mechanical parts make a machine operational, so do different people and perspectives make organizations more effective and more dynamic than they can ever be without diversity. Lewis now speaks to, facilitates, and coaches other white men and others at work to enhance their self-interest in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. After spending 40 years in the field and after over 6,000, let me repeat that, 6,000 corporations, academic institutions, and government agencies have utilized his diversity training videos and guides and workshops to bring increased effectiveness to individuals, teams, and organizations. Where his best contribution today is coaching or facilitating white male leaders individually or in small groups, Lewis co-founded Griggs Productions, which resulted in 23 award-winning videos and guides in 4 series: Going International, Valuing Diversity, Valuing Relationships, and Human Energy at Work, and an interactive internet and intranet e-learning program, The Potential is Yours, 2 books, I know how you sleep, Going International and Valuing Diversity, and other printed training manuals and training services. Also, he co-created the nation's first National Diversity Conference, which he later sold to the Society for Human Resource Management, and many national and local television and radio appearances he has experienced, and frequent conference and speaking engagements on the essential concepts of maximizing our personal, interpersonal, and organizational potential by valuing our human diversity. For this work, Lewis has received the Pioneer in Diversity Award and was formally recognized as a legend in diversity and one of the top in the country. Born and raised in Minneapolis, St. Paul, Lewis earned both an Amherst BA, or Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, and a Stanford Master of Business Administration in Entrepreneurial Management. In addition, Lewis became a certified professional coactive leadership coach, and for a decade has led and facilitated spiritual groups after having recovered and learned so much from what has now become 3 near-death experiences. I have the pleasure of meeting Lewis through a group that we both belong to, and I'm so grateful because our first conversation was supposed to be a half hour and it went almost 2. So please, without further ado, join me in welcoming Lewis Brown Griggs to the show. So yay, we're going to give you a round of applause. So welcome.
Amazing. What an incredible introduction. God, talk about a reminder that we all live in the present moment and that whatever the past was the past. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Did I really do all those things?
You really
Wow.
did all those things, and that probably is that's probably the 50,000-foot overview of all of the things that you've accomplished over the course of your career.
Amazing.
And interestingly, as a child, one of the questions that we ask everybody is, as a child, I don't know that this is what you saw yourself doing, especially the way you described your upbringing. So,
Not at all.
what did little Lewis want to be when Lewis grew up?
Oh, little Lewis was so clear. In the state of Minnesota, I wanted to grow up and be a U.S. Senator in the state my family helped create with others. Or I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. That's all, those two things.
Oh.
And I did a year of pre-med and dropped out because I just couldn't stand spending 10 years down in the microscope like that. And I dropped out of politics, which I did for twice when I discovered the lack of ethics in too many, 80 to 90% of them. I just couldn't do it. And so I didn't know at all what I was going to do when I grow up. And as we know, if we can smile and own our own truths, there's something about late 20s when a male starts to really grow up and get out of the teen years, whereas females tend to do it about 10 years earlier. Anyway, it was late 20s when I moved here to California, all the way from Boston, where I had been in public television, and I worked in public television here, and I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I had done politics and a corporate startup and nonprofit public TV, and it wasn't it. So since I couldn't figure it out myself, I was called by totaling my automobile and going through the tunnel we talk about all the way into the light, which I now call the source. And I was even conversed with and asked, what is it, Lewis, that does keep you from being, not just doing, because with privilege I could do whatever I wanted almost. What kept you from being all you're capable of being? I didn't know. But in that conversation, when I was asked to discover that more deeply, the answer to that, it had to have something to do with growing up with privilege. And this book, Cast on My Shoulder, is the most amazing book I've read in 40 years of doing diversity training. And I just read it last year after my third near-death experience coming out of a COVID ventilator. To continue to do this work, I had to come back. And yet I need to remind myself constantly that my work is my work, and I can only teach, coach, facilitate, advise based on what I've learned, because everything's a projection. Without judgment, I say that word. And so I'm only an expert on one thing, my constant process of being in recovery. No shame, no blame. And the gifts I am experiencing by being able to do the bridging that before only others had to do to deal with people like me, I'm able to do the bridging and now meet people with no power over or under one another, just with our equity and our soul connection, to whatever extent we're open to feeling it, being aware of it, and sharing it. And that's a degree of what we call intimacy in leadership, but you could call it just trust or partnership if the word intimacy bothers you. But we learned that intimacy, this kind of connection, is with no power over or under one another and no human sexual energy at all. It's just like a soul connection to the essence of who we each are, until we can see how I see you and I feel seen by you. And then lots can happen, from the boardroom to the bedroom, in the grocery store, with our siblings, with friends, and in the team, in the workplace. So that's how it's all related. Left brain, right brain, spirit or not, it's all energy. It's human energy and human spirit at work.
And at the time that you had your first near-death experience, I mean, this was very radical way of thinking compared to what was going on in the rest of society. So you were basically spoken to by the source, and various people have various names for the same thing.
That's right. Source is a good name. Thank you.
And I like Source. That's a really great name. But there's still an element of fear. Some people, whether you call it God, the source, or whatever, may feel like they're told to do something and they're still afraid to move forward. Where did you find the courage with your station and privilege and how you've been raised to take this leap, listen to the message that you were told, and go out into the world and essentially start talking to an audience that really was not ready to hear what you were going to say?
That is so true. Wow. Well, the most authentic answer, the true answer is that when I learned that that's the work I needed to do and was called to do, I was immediately sent back down into the body. I remember coming back into the body. I walked out of the totaled automobile and told the ambulance there's nothing wrong, no problem. And I couldn't share what had happened yet because nobody was talking about these things then. So I want to share with you I want to answer the question by saying, the way I was able to handle it is I actually, with that degree of consciousness, new consciousness, was able to notice and feel that doors that opened that I had nothing to do with. That was new for me because I used to think I could open whatever door I wanted. Oh, God bless me. So that if doors just open, then that means there's some reason to be called through that doorway and learn and trust the process. Because we never lose the ability to notice when we're not safe and when we're not welcome. It's a survival skill.
Right.
Mammals know it. We know it. Okay. Children know it. Okay. You can feel the energy. But if I'm invited through doors that open for me and I enter, that becomes not a crisis with fear. I didn't have fear. It becomes an opportunity. Okay.
And that, you know what? And believe it or not, we are due for a commercial break already. So that will be a perfect place for us to pick up when we return from this brief commercial message. So please come back for more with Lewis Brown Griggs on What the Why. Welcome back to What the Why with Barbara Ann and today's very special guest, Lewis Brown Griggs. Right before the break, we were having a conversation and Lewis was sharing about how there really was no fear because he trusted the process and surrendered to it. And so if you could elaborate, you were starting to elaborate on it. We needed to break for our commercials for other shows.
Yeah, I don't want to say, I just don't like the word fear. I'm willing to say, yes, there's a discomfort with the unknown, which some people can get to fear and refrain from action or being. So I don't know why I have it, but once I feel that now, I'm able to sense, there's a reason for this. There's a learning here. There's an opportunity. And even when bad things happen, like when I tried to ski jump with my son and ripped 3 ligaments, one of them off, and I lay there on the ground and said, well, you got to get the toboggan and get the car, and what am I here for? So it's not that I don't have what we call fear. I don't let it drive, put it that way. And instead, there's an opportunity to learn from every single situation. And if we're actually able to learn, then the big problems don't happen. In other words, I wouldn't have needed to get hit so hard to have a near-death experience. I would have just learned. So why have I had 3 of them? Well, I guess there was more to learn. Or I was contributing to my lot not learning and I needed a reminder. But that's how it all started. And when I realized I didn't know how to do the relating across any differences as well as other people were doing, that's what started it. And we made sure that every new video and guide and whatever product we made was only ready when I was able to understand fully what it is we're trying to share. Otherwise, I couldn't teach it, train it, coach it, or facilitate it. And that's an endless process. So I'm still not an expert,
Yeah.
except in openness to learning more
Yeah.
every day.
Always the
And
student.
what a gift it is.
Yeah, always a student. And now you are an expert in terms of the definition is 10,000 hours of experience, and you definitely have way more than that, working with over 6,000 entities. But especially in the earlier timeframes when you were doing that, you knew what your mission was. You were being hired by these entities to help them develop their missions. I imagine it would have been a little challenging.
It was highly challenging.
Yeah.
For instance, I had the way I first learned was the vast differences of other cultures. To make a long story short, I had a meeting with some Japanese and 8 of them, and they all spoke English, and I didn't speak Japanese, and they knew more about me than I knew about them. And I went, whoa, that's the problem. And to make a long story short, for 5 years of writing a book and making videos called Going International, I suddenly realized that ethnocentrism was so deep that it was impacting my relationship even here with every American who isn't the 14th generation all Anglo yuppie wasp. Like me, that's pretty lonely, right?
Yeah.
And so we created valuing diversity workshops and seminars and a book. And just the word valuing diversity was new to people. So I met people at one end, let's say at Chevron, who Chevron oversees petroleum. Yeah, they knew how to send white male engineers to the Middle East dealing with oil, but they didn't know how to deal with cultural differences very well either. And then when I shifted to value diversity, let's say I found even at Chevron, an individual far away dealing with legal compliance and equal opportunity. Well, those two never spoke to each other, nor did they ever notice they actually are needing to do the same work, right? The global ones weren't doing the intercultural, interpersonal work, and nor were the legal compliance people. And so I had to bring left hand and right hand together within myself as well, right? And that's how it all started. And then every team, every organization started to perceive the need to do something.
Yeah.
And they still aren't all doing it well enough. No one is, but some are. And it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And for me, again, since we're so short on time and learning experience over all these years, when I was had another near-death experience above the ventilator in the first COVID in 20 that had taken my lungs and my heart, and they had told my wife they may not be able to bring me back. I was up there just hanging on to know I have to come back, not only to live and to love, but also to do more work. Because for me, watching that knee on George Floyd's neck and all the other things we've watched, even last week,
Yes.
Yes. And and even today, if we were on it, that all is just emphasizes the need we all have to figure out how to simultaneously be one. As I learned in the first near-death experience, we are all one. We all come from the same source, okay? And if you believe in prior lives or not, just imagine, that means last time you weren't in that body, and I wasn't in this one. Whoa. Well, if the souls all come from the same source of energy, light, love, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, and then we land in these bodies, and then we're in the only DNA in the history of life on Earth in which we're now living.
Yep.
And we're simultaneously one and uniquely different with all kinds of similarities and differences in the spectrum between.
Yes. And
so why see these differences as threats to one another?
right.
When they're actually gifts to one another, potential learnings from the other's path through which they come. We can learn together by not thinking we're right.
Yes.
Oh, what a relief it is not to know I have to have the right answer.
And I know we've talked about it because so much of that is really about the internal person and their need to dominate or win or measure by looking externally instead of finding what's really important internally.
Yeah.
So,
And within one another.
yeah, and
I
within
mean,
each
when
other.
I learned after all the growth that, wow, this is just one sentence. In 15 to 30 seconds, the first time we meet somebody, we are able, each of us able, even if we're not yet able to do it very well, we each have the capacity. And if you notice yourself, we can actually feel, and I'm silent on purpose because that word makes some people nervous. We can feel the energy. Ooh, now they wonder, really, what's this guy smoking? No, we can feel the energy within ourselves and within the other and in the space between us that we've co-created. We can feel that energy either get enhanced, like, wow, I see you, I feel seen, this feels safe, let's open more. Or if you're the problem or I'm the problem, we know how to handle that. We can feel this isn't working and we can protect and stay back and give space.
Yep.
Just to notice, I love the word, just notice how we are feeling within ourselves and what part we are responsible for. We can't fix the other. We can only work on ourselves
Exactly.
to enhance our own openness and consciousness and be with one another before we do. Be before we do. And then keep in the back pocket all the skills that we each have with our own privilege, our own learning, our all education. We all have various consciousness and learnings others don't have. We all have different privileges, therefore. Keep all of that in the back pocket while we're being authentic enough to meet each other first, and then apply all those skills we have to co-create and do whatever we're here in this relationship at this moment to be and do. How's that for an oversimplified version?
And not only, yes, and it's actually the perfect note on which to end. At some point, though, because what you just started to tap on is one of the reasons why so many companies struggle with implementing any kind of diversity, equity, and inclusion and belonging
Yes.
program. So at some point, I definitely would like to have you back so we can
Absolutely.
talk about what's wrong or what's broken with a lot of these efforts, why they are struggling, why they are not succeeding, why diversity officers are getting burnt out. So, but in the interim, if someone wants to find you, what's the best way to find you?
LinkedIn, Lewis Brown Griggs, or my email, lewis@griggs.com, my old website, I haven't updated it much, but griggs.com. And my email is just that, lews@griggs.com. And or LinkedIn, and also YouTube. I have a whole page with all my videos are now free on YouTube instead of for sale the way they were in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
So yeah, we'll go to my YouTube page, which is Griggs Productions, better than Lewis Brown Griggs. And there you can even listen to my TED Talks and other places I've been interviewed or done webinars and watch videos. There's so much.
Awesome. So we definitely, thank you so much, and we definitely want to have you back.
Thank you. I'll be back.
Awesome. Yeah, you'll see more of Lewis and I. We've had some offline conversations. So,
Thank you.
But now, regarding coming up, as we continue on with season 2, please tune in for our next week. Our upcoming guest is Jarde Allen, a financial services expert and CEO of In the Moment Financial Services. She's a very unique story. She's recently featured by the Reinvestment Fund for the work that she's done with helping Black and brown businesses to establish foundations of financial success within their businesses. And she's just one of many others that will be coming and joining us in the studio. Please believe me when I say you don't want to miss anything that any of them have to say. And if you have missed what any of our past guests said, because maybe you just found us, please do go to check out all of season 1 and season 2 to date on the What the Why page of RVN Television's website, as well as on Roku. You can also check out a lot of really other great content as well. You have so many viewing choices these days, so thank you very much for taking the time to watch our show, and please remember to tell a friend or colleague about us. As a reminder, What the Why airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and Mondays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and is also available on demand through RVN Television and Roku. And also, please remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life or career, big or small, please join us again for more inspirational and informative and life-changing conversations with people like Lewis, who wanted to make changes and overcame whatever challenges or obstacles, talked to the source and came back, found their core purpose and lived it.